What's good? It's your boy 2K here. Shout out to the movement and everybody who's moving with us. Also, shout out to the whole Three Kings boxing staff, all of our supporters, and all of our sponsors. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the website. We're putting a lot of content out on a daily basis. Also, make sure you check out the podcast, The Movement Sports, on Blog Talk Radio. Just last night, we talked about the Sergey Kovalev knockout defeat to Alida Alvarez that happened this past weekend. Also, we delved into a little bit of NBA talk, NFL talk, and of course, UFC. We've had some major things happen in the UFC with Demetrius Johnson losing this past weekend, and of course, the announcement of the Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor fight. So, if you are interested in critical analysis and those sports, then go ahead and check us out over there as well. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start posting some clips of what we do on that podcast on this channel so you guys can get a feel of what we're doing over there. All right? For this one, I want to talk about the prospect of Mikey Garcia possibly ducking a Vasyl Lomachenko unification. Of course, Vasyl Lomachenko is the lineal and the WBA champion in the lightweight division. And Mikey Garcia just recently picked up the IBF title and sits it alongside his WBC lightweight title, right? Now, the narrative, or the popular narrative right now, is that Mikey Garcia is ducking a unification bout with Vasyl Lomachenko in order to pursue a welterweight bout with Errol Spence. And I believe a lot of people feel that he's ducking for two reasons. Number one, because the obvious, Vasyl Lomachenko's in his weight class. Loma's probably, arguably, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He's not my number one pound-for-pound, but he's arguably number one. There's a lot of people that have him at number one, and there's a lot of respectable boxing organizations that have him at number one, right? And then the other thing is that Mikey Garcia flip-flops a lot. You know, one minute he wants to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, next minute he wants to go to welterweight. Next minute after that, he's in a unification bout with Errol Spence. Robert Easter Jr. Next minute, you know, he's talking about fighting a Jorge Linares. Of course, I'm out of order with that shit, but y'all get where I'm going. You know, he's been capricious at best about how he wants to solidify his legacy, right? The fights that he wants to take to solidify his legacy. So with people not being able to trust the word of Mikey Garcia, now they're just like, oh man, he's calling out Errol Spence. These are just, you know, bullshit call outs. He don't really mean what he say because he's been doing it for the last year? Probably since before he fought Adrian Broner, right? So that's another reason why they feel like he's ducking Vasyl Lomachenko. But let me tell you this, and the perspective in which I'm getting ready to present in this video will tell me a couple of things about my listeners, subscribers, whoever decides to comment and give their take on this after hearing my perspective. It's going to tell me a few things about you. So, one of the things I always talk about is solidifying your legacy before you look for the big money fights, right? Now, if your name is not Canelo, it's going to be difficult for you to get out there and make millions upon millions of dollars without fighting big name guys, without taking those big challenges, right? Of course, Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather, and after that loss, he still was able to be one of the biggest draws in boxing. That's one of the things that a lot of these young fighters are afraid of. They feel like if they take a loss to it doesn't matter who, that they're going to lose draw power, they're going to lose marketability, right? And a lot of these promoters will put that shit in their head. So now they think that as a possibility. In some cases, it is a possibility. Some of these fighters out here are being pushed as something that they're really not. So when they get exposed, they do lose marketability. And to an extent, even when you lose some bit of marketability. But it really depends on how you bounce back. Boxing is a sport where it's all about what have you done lately, right? So you could have lost a fight in February, but bounced back and won a pretty big fight in July. Now everybody sees you for that big fight that you won after you lost. That's how boxing is, right? So, and that's what a lot of these young fighters don't fucking understand. See, Mikey Garcia, ever since he left Top Rank, has turned his career completely around. If you look at the fights he's had with Top Rank, of course he was a champion at 126 pounds. He was a champion at 130 pounds, right? But he fought guys like Orlando Salido, Juan Lopez, Rocky Martinez, guys that don't really have a big name. Orlando Salido has a somewhat big name. He's not one of the bigger names in the sport in terms of why we respect him. We respect Orlando Salido because he was a guy that pretty much had double-digit losses and was able to still become a champion in the sport. That's why we respect him. We don't respect him as a motherfucker that is as a bricklayer in boxing. He's changing the game. You know what I'm saying? He's not respected on a level in which we respect guys like Vasyl Lomachenko, whom ironically he beat, and Terrence Crawford, guys of that nature. We don't respect them like that. Anthony Joshua, for example, Deontay Wilder. We don't respect Orlando Salido like that. And we most definitely don't respect a fucking Juan Lopez, who was supposed to be garnering that kind of respect, but he's had a few setbacks that led to his pretty much dismissal out of the sport. Now he's just some guy in the sport that's still fighting for a paycheck. And we definitely didn't respect Rocky Martinez as that. Rocky Martinez was a guy that was a B-level fighter that managed to become a 2-weight champion. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a 3-weight champion. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at his box rec right now. But he ended up being a multiple-weight champion or multiple-time. Let me just say a multiple-time champion as a B-level fighter. B-minus, borderline C-plus level fighter. And that's just a testament to the fact that a lot of these fighters get opportunities for title shots when they probably shouldn't, right? But anyway, those are the guys that he was fighting. When he left Top Rank, of course, he came back, took the WBC title away from, I can't think of his name right now, Eastern European guy. And he just got knocked out in his last fight by Journeyman. Can't think of his fucking name right now, but took the WBC title off of him and then went on to fight Adrian Broner, right, at 140. A lot of people didn't think he was going to move up to 140. Fought Adrian Broner, which at this point in his career is the best name on his resume in terms of, a popular fighter that he's defeated. And then he moved up to 140. Now, of course, Sergey Lipinets isn't a bigger name than Rocky Martinez, Orlando Salido, or even Juanma when Mikey Garcia fought him. But the idea of him moving up to 140 as a natural 126-pound fighter, even though, you got guys like Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, guys that have moved up multiple divisions well beyond what they started out as a professional in, it's still a feat to respect when other fighters do so. And that's what Mikey Garcia did. So when he moved up to fight Lipinets for the IBF title at 140, he garnered a lot of respect for that move, right? And then, of course, after that, he moved right back down to 135 and became the unified champion at lightweight, defeating Robert Easter Jr., who's probably the second best win on his resume. So in his last 4 fights after leaving Top Rank, he picked up 2 of his biggest wins of his career. That's how much business Mikey Garcia has been taking care of since leaving Top Rank and becoming his own boss. Now he's trying to further solidify his legacy by moving up another weight class and challenging for another title at welterweight. Now this will be if he were to go to welterweight and defeat Errol Spence, right? Let's just think about this. If he were to go to welterweight and defeat Errol Spence, he will become a 5-weight champion. You know what I'm saying? From 126 to 147. That's effectively what he will have accomplished. Now, if he defeats Lomachenko, stays at 135, right? There he will become the lineal champion, and he will have 3 belts, WBA, IBF, and the WBC, right? Now, you have to look at how we would rank the accolades. How does becoming a 5-weight champion, and in doing so, defeating one of the biggest boogeymen of the sport, and Errol Spence, stack up to being a lineal champion at 135 and defeating one of the best fighters in the sport? Now, I don't believe Vasyl Lomachenko is a boogeyman. There's guys that have called him out. There's still guys that are calling him out to this day. Errol Spence is only being called out by Terrence Crawford and Yordenis Ugas. And then now, of course, Mikey Garcia, right? Errol Spence has got the entire welterweight division shook. Vasyl Lomachenko does not have an entire division shook, okay? Therefore, while Lomachenko's, like I said, arguably the #1 pound-for-pound guy on my list, he's at number 2. I have Errol Spence at the top 10. I'm not sure where I have Errol Spence at, but he's in the top 10. You know what I'm saying? He still is one of the best fighters in the sport. I rank him higher than Errol Spence on that pound-for-pound list. So, on paper, when you look at it, he is a better win as far as where we rank him skill-wise in the sport of boxing. But then you look at it on the Errol Spence side, he could be a better win because it's 2 weight classes higher than where Mikey Garcia is currently campaigning. Errol Spence is a boogeyman in the sport, right? And then this will make him a 5-weight champion. And of course, he's still a pound-for-pound fighter, Errol Spence is. So, to be quite honest with you, you could say he's ducking Vasyl Lomachenko because this guy's in his weight class and he's not looking to unify. That's fine. I got on Tank's ass for not looking to fight Lomachenko when Loma was at 130, right? So I can't sit there and not say that Mikey Garcia is not avoiding Vasyl Lomachenko at some degree. But when you compare the accolades, right, the potential possibility of him becoming a 5-weight champion, who he's going to beat, or who he could possibly beat anyway. I don't want to be definitive in Mikey Garcia defeating Errol Spence because I don't think he can do it. But when you look at the possibility of him being able to beat an Errol Spence, it is very comparable to the accolade of him becoming lineal champion defeating Vasyl Lomachenko. Very comparable. And that's just because of what he has to go through to be able to get this win. I mean, look at it. Let me put it to you this way. Mikey Garcia has a better chance, in my opinion, at defeating Vasyl Lomachenko than he does Errol Spence. Right? Let me just put it like that. That puts it at a better perspective as to why moving up 2 weight classes is very comparable. You see what I'm saying? So it would be more of a miracle win that he defeats Errol Spence at 147 than him defeating Vasyl Lomachenko at 135. There are already a lot of people that believe he could defeat Lomachenko. There aren't that many people that believe he can move up to 147 and defeat Errol Spence. So, shit, even when you put it in that perspective, might be a better win going for Errol Spence. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want you guys to think about before you start bashing Mikey Garcia and his decision. You know what I'm saying? He's really looking to solidify his legacy, right? And like I said, I don't mind saying that he's ducking Lomachenko because we got to be fair. We got to be right down the middle, right? If we get on Tank's ass, we got to get on Mikey Garcia's ass, right? But then, at the same time, you can't fault him for wanting to solidify his legacy, right? In a bigger perspective, in a bigger aspect than fighting Lomachenko at 135. We got to respect him for that. You know what I'm saying? I got to respect him for that because he's doing, or he's at least trying to do, exactly what I always tell fighters they need to do. They got to step up, take the challenge. And look at how bad this will make Keith Thurman look if a motherfucker from 135 moves up to 147 and takes your damn food. You know what I'm saying? That's going to make Keith Thurman. I mean, Keith Thurman already looks bad. The niggas over there on some damn spiritual shit, nigga, you know, playing instruments in the mountains and shit with his motherfucking legs crossed and a daishiki. You know what I'm saying? This motherfucker already looks really bad right now. The motherfucker was supposed to come back in September. He's supposed to come back in July. He's supposed to come back in August. All those dates have been canceled, right? Drops the WBC title, keeps the WBA. Shit, the WBA was getting ready to make Manny Pacquiao versus Lucas Matisse for Keith Thurman's super title till they realized, oh shit, he's still the champion. We done forgot about Keith Thurman. Damn. They're really about to give a title that was already being held by Keith Thurman to the winner of Manny Pacquiao versus Lucas Matisse, guys. We reported on that on 3kingsboxing.com. They were getting ready to do it. So they realized Keith Thurman still held the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So that's how bad he's looking right now. Just imagine if Mikey Garcia, just if Mikey even goes to welterweight and fights Errol Spence, that makes him look bad. Just imagine if he fucking beats him, dog. Man, that's what I'm saying. So this is a very legacy solidifying fight from Mikey Garcia. And hell, even if he loses to Errol Spence, it'll be a situation where the majority of fans are going to be like, yeah, I told you so. But he still gains respect and taking that fucking challenge, man. A very bold challenge. And one thing I want to say before I end this, just alluding to the idea of the reason why I don't think Mikey Garcia defeats Errol Spence at 147, simply because if you look at his fight with Sergey Lipinets at 140, Mikey Garcia looked fat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he looked like Fat Albert in that motherfucker, but dude's belly was real soft. Shit, his belly was soft against Robert Easter at 135. But at 140, he looked bloated. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, his ability to outthink Sergey Lipinets, coupled with his raw skill set, raw talent, was the reason why he was able to defeat Lipinets the way he did. Now, Lipinets really looked good. I think that was only his 13th professional fight, and he still looked good. He gave Mikey Garcia a pretty good fight. But Mikey is an elite level talent, so that's why he was able to defeat him. But let's just say if he had average talent, right, and an average brain, he would have lost to Lipinets. And I believe it has something to do with his conditioning. Just think of him at 147. He's got to gain 7 more pounds, right, to make that weight limit. And he doesn't necessarily have to gain 7 pounds. As long as he's over 140 and he's within the 147-pound limit. But he's going to want to have to gain as much weight as he can so that he's not coming into the ring against Errol Spence, who could fight at 154, possibly at 160. He's not giving up, 30 pounds in weight, you know what I'm saying, coming into that fight whenever both guys rehydrate. So that's what I'm saying, man. He looked bloated at 140. This motherfucker gonna look real fat at 147. He gonna look like one of them motherfuckers on The Biggest Losers. You know what I'm saying? Dude gonna look like a big fat ass version, a Mexican version of Queen Monique. Real talk. So that's what I'm saying, man. I don't like his body at 140. I definitely don't like it at 147. And of course, Errol Spence is a prolific body puncher. So he's gonna be beating up that soft, you know what I'm saying, jelly belly. Gonna be beating it up, dog. And I could possibly see Mikey Garcia getting stopped just because his conditioning, at least in the core anyway, is not where it needs to be. And Robert Garcia has even admitted that Mikey Garcia doesn't really work on his core in training. So I don't know, man. You can't just do a 12-week training camp and decide to work on core within that 12-week training camp. That's got to be something that you got to be working on year round. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're going up against a body puncher like Errol Spence. But, Mikey Garcia sees something. There's a lot of things that I see in Errol Spence as well. But I just don't think Mikey Garcia is that guy to exploit those flaws, or at least to exploit them across 12 rounds and route to a decision win. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, man, we got to respect Mikey for what he's trying to do. Although, I would love to see this motherfucker fight Vasyl Lomachenko. YouTube, do what you do in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this topic. But be real. Don't forget to go over to the Movement Sports Podcast on Blog Talk Radio. Also, don't forget to get the latest and greatest on 3kingsboxing.com. This is real talk for real fans. 1.